welcome to Inspired Learning, the Path of Exile podcast with Badger and Yoji. My name is Badger.
I'm Yoji.
And today we are joined by Mairian. Welcome, Mairian, to the podcast. This is the first time you've been on this podcast. We're really excited to have you on. How are you going?
Pretty good, enjoying Path of Exile.
That's good. That's I'm glad you're enjoying it because as we know, there's a bit of a contentious league. I'm sure we'll talk about that quite a lot today. But how has your Path of Exile been going? What build have you been playing? What kind of content you've been farming? What are you up to?
Well, my league start was the most scuffed league start I have ever had before because in my mind I had a great idea that I thought this would for sure work if I went Battle Mage's Cry with Chieftain. Now, the problem was that, first of all, they put trigger spell cost, and it was much higher because they eventually, after a week, they nerfed that cost. But it was impossible to sustain. It was so clunky. The damage was non-existent. So at Act 5, I had to change it to something else, and I decided to go Bone Shatter on a Chieftain. So it was a fire Bone Shatter, but then just last at the end of last week, somebody pointed out that elemental damage has penalty on stun. So the swing between physical and elemental damage is 50% on stun. Yeah. And I was like, no, but why?
Oh.
So I just had to basically had to level a new character because it was also not very good. And now I'm playing Forbidden Rite Totems, and it is marvelous. It's so nice. Best build ever. Recommend.
I heard a lot of good things about that.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Yeah. What type of setup are you running? Are you a Hierophant or like something more?
No, I'm just Hierophant. I also kind of gave up on making my own builds because the first two completely flopped.
Yeah.
And so I just took one from somebody who was playing it, yoink, mine now. So
basically, this looks like it's working, I take that.
Yeah,
I love
exactly.
Give me something that works.
I think I'm perfecting the art of yoinking without people realizing. It's great.
Yo, what?
No, that was a joke. That was a joke. I like taking builds that people are like, oh, I'm trying this, and then trying a different way on it. Yoji, though, what have you been playing? Because you've been jumping about as well into a few different things. Hey.
I had the literal worst league start probably out of all people in the world ever.
All right,
so
Mairian and Yoji, fight for your worst league start. Go.
Yeah,
go Yoji.
My league start was ridiculously bad, and I thought after Ultimatum scuffed league start, I was like, okay, at least I had fun. But I was like, okay, yeah, that was pretty scuffed. But I played a little bit on Friday evening, and then on Saturday morning I played quite a bit. I started with Absolution Guardian, and as you might know, Absolution numbers in the beginning were complete ass. So I kind of struggled through the campaign, and when I hit the lofty endgame goal of transmuted tier 1 maps, my build just couldn't do it, and that was pretty brutal. I never in all of my PoE playing time, I never had that happen. That white tier, basically unrolled tier 1 maps were basically an impossibility. And I mean, literally burning through 5 to 6 portals. It was ridiculous. And maybe my setup was a bit scuffed because I was SSF I'm playing in the group found league, but it was still Absolution just didn't have the damage. The minions died always, so I was like, okay, guess I'm re-rolling. But I also got my second COVID vaccine that day, and that knocked me out for 2 days, so I didn't play at all on Sunday and on Monday, basically. I just theory crafted an Eye of Winter self-cast build, and I played Inquisitor, and I played that for a day, and I kind of didn't like it that much. And then on Wednesday I went on vacation for 4 days, and I came back on Sunday and re-rolled again into Bone Shatter Jug, and that's what I'm actually still playing. And it's it basically feels like physical Infernal Blow. That's really what it feels like. And I'm enjoying that. So I was wondering, when you said you rolled Chieftain, I would probably just swap to Infernal Blow, exact same playstyle. You bonks one thing, and then Explosion is chained through the pack. It's just literally the same playstyle.
Well, I was really set on playing the new skills, because I usually in League Start, my League Start is always a new skill, so I was really set on that. And I was like, well, which new skill could I use on Chieftain at this point when my Battle Mage Cry idea miserably failed? And I was like, okay, Bone Shatter, let's go. And the sustain for damage, like mitigating the self hit was fine, but like the damage was shit.
How did you scale? How did you scale the damage?
Well, it was just elemental damage and stacking attack speed. I was, getting to like 15, 16 stacks on single target of trauma, but it just felt like it wasn't adding that much. Like 15, 16 stacks, almost like another support gem.
Yeah.
But it felt like it was barely adding anything. So on single target, I was struggling on the Conquerors, and I was like, you know what?
So you're converting into Ellie, basically, like the whole
I was converting to Ellie and just scaling elemental physical damage and
interesting
endurance charges, trauma stacks, stuff like that, and it was just not good.
Okay.
Mitigation was fine, but
yeah, I imagine as a chieftain they take as fire and like scale fire res.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wasn't that good.
I mean, as a jug, what I do is I scale also with attack speed. There's like basically, I think, two good ways to scale it. One is strength stacking Pillar of the Cage Guard, because you basically get so much increased that the 260 added flat from Bone Shatter gets scaled by that. And the other one is like scaling attack speed, which means you need insane fizz mitigation. But of course, once you get to like 20 plus trauma stacks, it gets pretty rough even as a jug. It's really noticeable. Like, I was running a Tabular, and I actually had to switch to a Fireflink body armor with armor to not nuke myself from like 12 stacks onwards, which was pretty hilarious.
Yeah.
Because once you get like Onslaught, Frenzy Charges, Blood Rage, Rage stacks, and you actually really get attack speed going, it's getting a bit tricky. And I'm running maces, so I'm not even like really fast on the attack speed like a Siege Axe or whatever. I'm actually running a Behemoth mace, which is the fastest one-handed mace, And it's still like, you also need I have a 2k armor shield, I got like endurance charges, and I still see the health dip sometimes. So once you get to like really high stacks, but I think once I got like all my mitigation set up going with like Fortify and stuff, I think it's going to be pretty alright. The clear is interestingly enough better than the single target, as you said, because it's like Infernal Blow chip. Bonk. Yeah. The cool thing is that how Bone Shatter works is when you stun an enemy with it. Most of the time, because the mechanics are a bit scuffed, most of the time when you stun an enemy, an AoE explosion will happen. The AoE size is based on stun duration. So if you're a jug, for example, you get 10% stun duration per charge, endurance charge. And you also get a lot from mace nodes on the tree and whatever. So you usually get like a pretty sizable AoE. And when that AoE then stuns another enemy, that also can cause another AoE. So that's basically like old Explodey chest that it actually pro-lifts through packs. If you keep stunning, which is kind of cool, because sometimes you get like this lucky hit where the whole pack just like dies like until off screen. But since it's a bit scuffed, sometimes you just hit one enemy. But I use Ancestral Cry to help with that, because then you now have like basically hit 4 enemies, and the chance that all 4 don't get stunned is pretty low. So now with Ancestral Cry, and I'm not using multi-strike because you don't get trauma per repeat. It's actually pretty decent.
You also can't exert multi-strike hits.
Yeah, you can't Ancestral Cry it,
Yeah, Ancestral Cry just doesn't, and I was like, oh man, multi-strike would be so nice, but like Ancestral Cry for this is too good to pass.
Yeah, you can't do it without
if you don't stun, I mean, even for my build was even worse, because I had the penalty to stun. So if I didn't stun, it was like
nothing happens.
So painful, nothing happens. Literally,
I didn't even realize that. It makes sense now thinking about it. But I didn't realize the penalty of stun for elements. So I learned something. There we go. Tick. That's my tick box for this podcast. That's good.
I'm actually using another new gem. Did you also use Behead support? Did you try that?
No,
I haven't tried it.
I mean, because I had to go elemental, so I just stack a bunch of elemental gems. Like,
yeah, you got the good gems.
Yeah.
Apparently, I haven't tested this, and I've heard this second hand, third hand, but apparently Behead support works amazingly well on Dominating Blow, because it's the only minion that can actually use Behead support. The minions can actually generate buffs.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Which is
it's not the
interesting.
Only one. It's not
the only one,
but
like easy one to do.
They're called. They got the strike tag, right? Because they are generated from a strike skill.
Exactly.
I can see that maybe being not super intended, but
I don't think it's super intended. So let's just hush about it.
Cool.
It's pretty cool though. Yeah. I want to do something like that, but
yeah, I know that because I respect by Absolution. I left that part out into Domblow for like a few hours, but I just decided I like that mechanic with Behead. It was cool. I decided that you know what, I play Domblow so much I just don't want to play it, and that also made me not go back on Absolution when it got buffed because I now had a Domblow character that I had to respec again, and didn't want to do that. So everything was scuffed. But Behead support I think is not very good, but it's kind of funny to use. It's not really strong.
Yeah, it's not that strong, is it? There's been lots of builds, like that build. Well, I guess Behead support, I could technically use that. I gave myself a challenge this league to only play new skills, because there's 19 of them, and I'm having a lot of fun with it. But I did fall into the trap of, well, it was a self-imposed trap, but of starting a new skill, and that trap was Bladetrap. And it wasn't great, especially with the AoE. It's damage. Bladetrap's damage is fine. Like, it's really good. But the problem with Bladetrap is you got to throw traps. The traps have got to land on the ground. Then the traps have got to proc, and then they deal their damage. Most traps deal their damage fairly instantly or, in chunks instantly. Bladetrap is many small hits after the procking of the trap. So I started with Bladetrap Poison, which was like...
Another delay, yeah, perfect.
It's another delay, so I had way too many delays. So pack clear was disgustingly bad.
That's cool.
So I rerolled on day 2 into Rage Vortex, and Rage Vortex was amazing.
That's strong.
That cleared all the content for me. It was super, super strong. Because of the way that it works, it's a melee attack that you can off-screen bosses with. It attacks once, so any exerted attacks go for the whole duration of the rotation. So Intimidating Cry is basically perma double damage uptime.
Whoa.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, it's good. Basically, that thing was good.
And you just went like Impale or what's
straight Impale, Berserker, full softcore, Andy type situation, which I'm very much embracing this league. And then I tried to go back to Bladetrap, and then it didn't work.
Yeah. So did you try Bladetrap after they buffed the AoE for it then?
I did, yeah. So I went back to it, and decided to just go for a fire conversion with Volcanus daggers, which once again had some pretty good damage, but I just didn't enjoy the playstyle of how the blade traps worked because there was so many small hits on a trap. It still just felt like poison traps, and it just wasn't great. I don't know. Like, I tried to go Raider and get a bunch of cast speed to put into throwing speed with Slave Driver's hands and do all of that, and it still felt pretty slow, so I ditched that again. And now I'm on Eye of Winter self-cast, like Yoji was talking about.
Ooh.
And
But Occultist, right?
Occultist, and going full
I think
Unleash.
That's a better version.
It's working. I have a goal to one-shot Conquerors. Like, one button press, 6 stacks of Unleash, killing Conquerors in one hit.
I think that's very possible if you line up the chain and stuff.
I need to invest a bit more currency. I'm almost there. I just did a little testing right before the podcast, and if you get the chain correct, because there's an interaction with chain and Hydrosphere. If you basically Eye of Winter, the projectiles, you hit as many projectiles as you can on the boss. The projectiles that miss, some of them are going to hit the Hydrosphere. Then they're going to chain back onto the boss, so a type of shotgunning, right?
Yep. Like, I think what you want to do, right, is that because the funny thing about Eye of Winter is that the projectiles always fire in the same direction. So if you unleash 5 or 6 things, they all fire in line.
Mm-hmm.
And so you want one stream to hit the Hydrosphere and chain to the boss, and one stream to hit the boss and chain to the Hydrosphere, basically.
Yeah.
And then go like a triangle of death.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, you gotta get that triangle right. Yeah. Boss kind of in the middle and Hydrosphere one side, and then you cast to the other side type of thing. Or there's a couple of weird ways that you can do it, but
I can say
theoretical DPS
Badger
is
drink.
big.
So what I imagine, I was Badger going into Drox's arena with I don't know, a ruler and a triangulation and stuff, and being okay, wait a second.
It kind of feels like that.
Here. And
I actually have a great clip. I have a great clip from actually an hour ago when I was fighting Drox. I went into Drox, stood there. Drox was, he was spawning himself, yelling his Drox things that he says, and I was like, all right, Hydra Sphere, I'm going to put that here. Going to wait for him to spawn. I'm going to put Sniper's Mark on him. I'm going to cast. He became vulnerable, immediately rushed me and just whacked me and one hit me.
Oh.
I was like,
oh no. Test failed.
So I was close, but...
It works.
Yeah.
It works, yeah.
So yeah, I was going to say, theoretically, the DPS of Eye of Winter is crazy, astronomical, and even more astronomical because it now has Celestial MTX, so haha.
Yeah.
Oh man, I got some really
Double
bad
damage.
puns today. I'm so sorry, guys. My puns aren't great. But anyway, yeah. No, it's got some good damage. It's a lot harder to get that damage accurate on moving bosses, like a lot of skills in the game. I think Storm Rain has the same problem this league. And yeah, there's a lot of skills like that where, you know, just stand still, boss, please.
Bone Shatter as well, because the stacks fall off, and like if a boss stands that you can whack at them, then you get like 20 stacks. You get like that's 40% more damage. But if you don't, then you don't.
Yeah,
it's kind of like Eye of Winter. Then you do 1 times damage instead of 2 times damage.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's my league start. It went okay just because of my sheer playtime. I just played too much, and so you know, playing so much means that you're gonna get successes somehow. And yeah, I was lucky with Rage Vortex to be my second skill. That was a good one.
Maybe I should have gone Rage Vortex, but converted to
good.
fire.
Yeah, that can work really well. As one thing, you can very much do that on a Chieftain. Well, Chieftain's a little difficult because of the rate. Anyway, I often say Berserker. You can still
Berserkers.
fire convert.
I mean,
but the Namahu's axe procs from the Rage Cyclone itself. Yeah, and because it hits so much, it's actually really good. So that's a legitimate build. Is Namahu's Rage Vortex? You should.
Now I want to do that.
I actually played that for like 3 days before I switched to Impale because it was so
funny.
cheap. It's really cool. Yeah, really cool. That was great.
That's
definitely gonna try that one out.
Yeah.
I wonder if there are like more procs that proc from that instead of where it usually does. Like what I'm thinking right now is like stuff like, I don't know, can you use it with swords? Does Cospreys proc from the position of the? You know what?
I didn't actually check that.
What about Bone Nova?
Yeah, Bone Nova, Chimera's Avarice, Mjolnir.
Yeah, because Namahu's procs from the Cyclone itself. So like you can have basically a ranged Namahu's. You just throw it. So that's actually a good. I haven't checked all the other triggers or procs or anything like that. That's a great question. Yeah, it should proc off the enemy that it hits. The location of the enemy, I think, is how those things work. That's really interesting, actually. Yeah,
would be really interesting.
Cosprey's Rage Vortex. Okay, here we come. All right, it's great.
That's sword or axe, so you can't Mjolnir it apparently, but you can Bone Nova it maybe.
Yeah, no, you could Bone Nova definitely. Yeah. There's a lot more skills that I want to try as well. I've been seeing Reaper finally getting the treatment it deserves. Someone figured out a really good Bleed Reaper build. I'm not sure if you peeps have seen the video.
Yep, it was like a really funny video. I saw that this morning.
Yeah. Basically, someone has scaled Reaper up to enough damage of one-hitting Conquerors with a massive bleed, which is really exciting. Using bows, so like a bow with a lot of plus gem levels, with the Reaper in it. But then using the bow so you can use Ensnaring Arrow very easily.
Nice.
I cannot remember the creator. I can't remember them off the top of my head, but if anyone wants to go search it, I think you can just find it on Google, just like on YouTube, sorry. If you just go Summon Reaper Bleed build, I think it's the top one there at the moment. Looks very strong, and I might be doing that as my next build. So we'll see. Pretty cool.
People were kind of excited about it, but then the numbers were so disappointing, and they were like, "Oh, dead skill." But now they buffed the numbers. Actually, one-shotting Conquerors. I mean, it depends on how much they invested, of course. Because you say they one-shot Conquerors, but then you see it's like
it's a lot of investment. The gear that he had was a lot, but I think the skills, not so much all of them are well. There are some good ones, as we know. I think the skills are just taking a lot more time for us to figure out how they best scale as a community.
Yeah.
which I think is really exciting. Like, they're not just straight away super overpowered, apart from Forbidden Right totems. That one's pretty powerful, but yeah.
Represent, yeah.
Tiny overpowered. I think Rage Vortex probably like it really hit the mark of where such a skill should be.
Yeah,
because it has like some thinking to do. Like you have to sustain the rage somehow and actually have a plan. But if you do, you get huge damage as a payoff, and also like not even horrible clear for a melee build. Like not obviously not like top tier clear, but yeah, I think so as well. I think some skills are a bit are a bit scuffed. For example, they had to like buff Absolution, but apparently like hundreds of more multipliers and 50% base damage to even make it work.
400% more.
I was a bit when I read that I was like, yeah, I cleared the campaign with this. I have to be like a badass player to do that. That's the conclusion, right? Because if you manage to do this, then you have to be like now if you do it again, you're like doing 400% more damage.
It does bring up questions, right? And to ask kind of to criticize a bit of what GGG were thinking when releasing a lot of these skills is, if you did have to, less than a week after the league start, if you did have to buff a skill by, 400% more damage, basically, like, what was the reasoning behind releasing it in the state that it was? It's interesting. We will never know. We can always theorize about how that went down, whether it was a time thing, whether it was just miscommunication, or whether they thought it would be fine through testing. We don't really know. It's
maybe they have this one idea of how you will scale it, and it worked, and very few, nobody's found it, and like the obvious way to scale it just doesn't work. So they're like, okay, I guess. And when somebody finds it this magical way, suddenly it's gonna be like the pop-off build. Yeah, everybody plays it, and they're like, we have to nerf it again. But hotfix it.
What would that, especially for Absolution? What would that be? You do take minion damage nodes. So there are not that many on the tree.
I tried to figure it out, and I tried something really memey. But I played one day. I was leveling a build. It was an Inquisitor using Absolution.
Yeah.
Using Battle Mage's Cry with Smite. So Smite, Battle Mage's Cry, Absolution to then give the Smite buff to the Absolution minions.
Yep.
Maybe they get a bit of damage from that. But then I was also using the two-handed Brain Rattler to buff my lightning penetration with Smite and Absolution. And looking at it all, I was like, man, this is such a cool idea. Me and chat were like, oh, this is great. This is going to be awesome. There's so many synergies here. It just flopped immensely.
Yep.
But it was really
before
cool.
or after the buff of Absolution?
That was after the buff. Yeah, so I was kind of like, I'm putting this down straight away.
No, but especially for Absolution, I think this really, really brings up questions, because I did like a very, very basic minion tree as I have done for many minion skills before. It's like I did not try anything scuffed. I was just self-casting Absolution on the Guardian, which gets decent cast speed, so you can actually keep up the minions on bosses and stuff. Running some Herald of Purity alongside it, which I think makes a lot of sense, and then I'd also tried running Wrath instead of a linked Herald because of the mana reservation changes, or like the mana gem changes. It was a very basic set. I got most of the good minion nodes on the tree, like level 70. You should be able to at least like half decently clear tier 1 maps, right?
Yeah.
And I think if you during testing run just like they advertised it as a Guardian skill, right? It was the skill for the Guardian.
Yeah.
So running it on a Guardian should be the one thing that they have tested before, I would assume. So it feels really weird. Like, it really feeds into the narrative that I've never really liked of RGGG actually really testing the stuff they're putting out. And even if they are, just looking at the damage numbers from the minions before the buff, comparing it to white Domblo minions, right? White Domblo minions have more than double the damage, the base damage. The white minions, not the blue ones, not the rare ones. Yeah. And you get 9 white minions on Domblo, am I correct? Or 9
something
overall?
Like that. I haven't played for a long time, but
and you get
9.
3 Absolution minions. Yes, you can EE scale it. Yes, you can get curses and stuff, but you can also impale Domblo. So it's not like there's no damage scaling there. So just from looking at the numbers, like a lot of people who know a lot about minions, like Gazi said, Absolution's going to be trash. Just looking at the numbers, like instantly. And I was like, I can make this work. I couldn't.
Aha!
I'll prove you wrong.
I didn't, by the way.
Yeah, it's a bit rough. It is interesting. Are you guys eyeing any other skill off that you feel hasn't been given the time of day that you think it should, or any of the new skills you want to play soon?
Well, I want to play Eye of Winter. I know. I mean, I'm going like at this point. I tried two that didn't work out. I'm gonna go for those that people are like vouching for right now because I really want to get my 40/40. So
and our testing done. I'm like only playing approved skills now.
Yeah,
I think that's a good approach, to be honest.
Yeah. I mean, the
Hmm.
Rage Vortex looks cool. Also,
Yeah.
I mean, what other skills are there?
I'll always say with Rage Vortex, like I said this in the build guide that I made for it, is it's really good, but you use a lot of buttons. It's basically a pre-nerf slam build with the amount of buttons that you are using. There's 3 Warcries that you use, and then Rage Vortex, and then Berserk, and then a couple of other buttons as well. It's intermittently, so it's a lot of buttons. If you don't like buttons, don't play Rage Vortex.
Yeah, no, that's a lot of buttons. Yeah, indeed.
Yeah.
I think a build that will be really cool once people figure it out more, or maybe once like someone makes a decent build, is Voltaxic Burst. I think it's one that a lot of people have stayed
Challenge
away from
accepted.
because I think a lot of people will.
Cool.
Yeah, I think it looks interesting at least. I think a lot of people who were like, "Oh, Chaos hit skills," all went with Forbidden Right because that was the obvious choice. And now we have the Lightning to Chaos conversion, delayed Nova explosion skill, kind of like sitting there waiting for someone to make something really cool with it. And there's some like meme stuff been done with it, but I think no one really actually went and tried to make it like super Pog. I think it can be really great clear with explosions and stuff.
What about the Flask build?
Oh, yeah, it doesn't work as a league start. That's what I heard from about 20 people who league started that, including Taki Cat and a few people in our private league, and everyone else I talked to who league started was like, that needs more investment.
All I heard is that it doesn't really scale that well into like higher tier content. Like even if you make it work, it just doesn't scale that well. That's what I've heard. But maybe you just need to scale it differently. With flasks, but then we were speculating before the league maybe to go with Hand of Wisdom and Action, for example. Some stat stacking for that one.
That doesn't work anymore. They nerfed. So what you could do is you could have like a disabled main hand weapon and an offhand weapon that you could use as a stat stick, but they nerfed that the last hotfix patch, whatever it was called. Which I find a bit weird because the skill was already not crushing the meta with crazy stuff, and now they took away the one thing that they had going for it, which was like either like cheating some stat stacking in or getting like extra proj with like some of the swords like Beldimber or what's called Evers, Mirage type sword. Anything you could do with it basically was got yoinked.
Oh.
Yep. Now you have to actually have unarmed.
I was just looking at the damage effectiveness. I haven't really looked at it too much, but it's just got a flat 100% damage effectiveness, so just like straight. So
Great,
flat
okay.
scaling's not amazing. It's like it does shotgun. This is the thing. Like it all the AoE explosions you can.
But the
overlap
AoE is
them.
pretty small base.
AoE is pretty small as a base. It is. It very much is. So you can do like a lot of. I think I saw someone doing greater volley and lesser multiple projectiles was the best. Like in 2 links was the best combination that they found for AoE spread and overlap. And it seemed to do okay. But I think you're very right that like it needs a lot of investment, and even then, it's not going to be a top tier skill. Maybe I don't know. 5 base.
We'll see. Maybe someone figures stuff out.
Once again, I think we can. I think the community will figure a lot of the new skills out, but it just hasn't been done yet. I'm waiting for that Voltaxic Burst to be figured out, and then everyone switches to it because it's the most powerful build in the game. Please.
That would be so cool because it's like the one skill that I think most people kind of like left to the sides.
Yeah.
Which is
definitely. Yeah.
That would be a cool storyline.
Yeah.
Please, someone figure that out.
Yeah. Yep. I mean,
What are
there's
your
Douglas. Sorry, you go, Mairian.
No, I'm just saying that some of these new skills, at least they look cool.
Yeah.
Even if they don't work, like the idea of the flask build, I mean, it looks really cool. Awesome. The idea of just throwing your flasks, but maybe the execution needs a little bit tweaking.
I was gonna say, I think they've nailed what. like half of what new skills should be in Path of Exile, and that half is exactly what you're saying, Mairian, is they look great and they sound great. You know, a lot of them are pretty bad, but I think because it's just an indication of how well, you know, the skills were implemented, you know, overall, is we're still talking about them 35 minutes into the podcast because, you know, we're excited about them still, you know, 2 weeks into the league. For me, that's what Path of Exile is about. I really like that, and I like theory crafting about gems, so I'm pretty overall happy with the implementation of these new gems.
Also, there are so many that definitely some of them are going to be good. And yes. I mean, if you make a few builds, you can stumble upon one that is good or several that are good and just play the new skills. Like, this is definitely a league where you don't have to go back to, okay, true and trusted, tried build, because some of these new ones, they definitely are good, and 100% recommend Forbidden Rite totems, okay? Good stuff.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
I think their goal probably was that introduce so many new skill gems that people don't have to go back to an old build if they don't want to, because everything got nerfed, right? So, and people really hate playing the same skill but worse. So I think they just wanted to offer something for everyone because they didn't want anyone to go back to same skill but nerfed. So every playstyle now has at least like one thing to try, if it is a support gem, a utility gem, or a main skill. So I think that approach was really good, but I think from being so many new gems, the quality and the fine-tuning that probably happens at the end of a skill design, like the design concepts are great, as you said, like the ideas are good, but the fine-tuning in the end probably was scuffed by a lot of them, like for a lot of them.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
They usually do better at this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say so, yeah. I think the execution of Exsanguinate and Reap last league was really good.
That was the numbers seemed really on point, yeah.
Yeah, they were really, really on point. Like, I don't think they've tweaked them at all, right? Even this patch.
But some it seems like they just threw them out.
I don't think they did anything to Exsanguinate. I mean, no.
They were good enough that like they felt good to play, but they didn't feel overpowered and just became the meta. They were really good to like level with. I wish we got the same kind of balance pass that Exsanguinate and Reap got on these skills, you know, overall.
Yep. I mean, Exsanguinate is really good on traps this league still, and last league's Spellslinger with both was pretty good. There was like some good setups, but there was nothing like, you don't play one of the two skills, you are like doing it wrong, basically. There was enough options that are different, but these skills were like right in the good enough tier of the meta, which I felt was really, really cool.
Yeah.
Very interesting. We're still talking about gems. This is great. Let's just make it a gem episode, right? It's a new skill gem episode.
Yeah.
No, we do have a lot more to talk about though, because no, we haven't had a podcast since the league started, have we, Yoji?
Nope, because I was on vacation.
Exactly. Yeah. No, we didn't. So like, the league mechanic itself, Expedition, is, well, how do you guys find it? I've heard lots of different opinions of Expedition League mechanic. How about the in-map? Let's start with in-map. When you jump into a map and you find an Expedition, or Tujin's there and he's like, get over here, Exile. How do you feel? What's your gut reaction?
My first one is like, any logbook remnants around here? That's like the first thing I look for. And then the second one is stuff that I could use, like any essences around here, any... Like, I basically like check the suffixes, which is the good mods, the rewarding mods, to see if there's any reward that I want, because how this works is the mods that you pick first apply to all monsters later in the chain. So you want to pick up the stuff that you want most first. That's how it works. And then you have to hope that it's not linked to something that your build can't run, or that's like really dangerous.
Or if you just don't pay attention to those modifiers and then complain because you can't kill the monsters.
Yeah.
Why are these invincible? What's going on?
Yeah.
They're immune to my damage type. Yeah, that doesn't help.
Yeah.
How did that happen? I don't know. No, but there are way more mods than just the immunities that were discussed. There's, for example, I'm playing a Juggernaut, right? There's monsters overwhelm 100% of physical mitigation. That basically monster art overwhelms your ascendancy, which is pretty brutal. I feel like a wet paper towel when I take that.
You're an elementalist now. Let's attack you. Yeah.
without the elemental mitigation.
Yes. Yeah, how about you,
Well,
Mairian? How is it feeling for you?
I honestly like the new league mechanic. And there is like some things that you would say, like all the picking up of all the different currency items maybe is not ideal. But there's one huge thing that makes this league mechanic better than bunch of past league mechanics is that there is no timer. And I
Yeah, I
don't
enjoy
like
that.
being rushed. Like last what we had ritual, like you put in an arena and yeah, you have to kill. And even worse was ultimatum, because if you couldn't like nuke all those monsters, you were literally dead instantly. Like I never played like super min-max characters, so for me it was really rough. My league starter was like like 50-50. You either do it or you don't with ultimatums, and it was like timed, and it's like rush, kill, and it's just like no time to like think about, or you can't retreat, or you fail the league mechanic, and now even if you die, boom, go back, kill them, different approach. I like that. I like it a lot. I think a lot of people probably appreciate no timers. And what I do, I just click random things. Oh, big chests, mine. Big monsters, big runic monsters, mine. I barely check the mods because I'm like click,
Hands
and go.
Up. That's me too.
Yeah.
I
that's why I
actually
run into a
like
lot of
read the
problems.
stuff.
Yeah, no, actually, I've had to start paying attention, because there is like, if you stack up bunch of block and bunch of dodge, you literally can't, like, you do nothing. Even if it's not immune, you don't do anything.
Yeah,
to
they're
them.
basically immune. Hey, yeah.
Yeah, so I have to, like, I just take mostly damage mods on them now and just hide behind my totems and goodbye.
Yeah.
My totems kill everything.
Exactly. Yeah, this league made me notice ritual a lot more in maps, and notice how much I dislike ritual now because of that exact fact you were talking about. Of if I die in ritual, okay, well, like that ritual's over. I'm just got to go to the next one, and I've lost out on all this kind of stuff, right? And I think the penalty should be dying in Path of Exile. Like that's the penalty of dying, is dying and losing your XP, right? And I really like that about the league mechanic, that you can just jump back in. You can take your time, exactly as you said, Mairian. Like you can take your time. You can hide behind your totems. You can hide behind walls. Be a bit slow with it. Be methodical about it. And I'm sure there'd be a lot of people that disagree with our opinion on that as well. Like it is slow. It's a slow league mechanic, and it's a valid way of playing, very fast as well. Like I think it's super valid. But honestly, just let me throw my body at a league mechanic. Let me use all of my 6 portals for a league mechanic. Please.
Yeah, exactly.
Soft go badger coming in.
Please let me do it. Oh, it's good to be back in softcore. I'll tell you what, Yoji.
Yeah, I believe that. Especially like, if you were in hardcore, you probably would have like felt forced to join in with the no logouts crew and stuff like that, because everyone was doing it.
Yeah, I noped right out of there.
I can see why. I think I'm actually also enjoying the league mechanic, and it also fits way better. Like such a league mechanic fits way better with if they actually want to slow the game down, which they now have said multiple times. It will take these types of league mechanics to make that work, because if you slow the game down more and more and like basically get to a slower pace, you can't put out like deliriums and like ultimatums, and I guess even like incursions with the timers at some point will feel weird and rushed compared to what the base game then would be if they actually pull through with it. But that's kind of like a bit foreshadowing maybe a bit of the discussion we will have later as well. But yeah, I think in that context it makes a lot of sense. And I'm also like really enjoying I'm not enjoying the splinters as well. I think that's that's such a horrible choice. Like why?
I wish they would like automatically collect when you run over them and go to the stash automatically. That would be the best.
Metamorph.
Just run over them, or like once you get them, they automatically pop up in your inventory, in the stash, something. Just like, so you don't have to click so much.
Like beasts as well, right? Yeah, it's so much clicking, and they put like this big post out where they explained like, yo, that's why we have so many currency types, which is like they want you to spend like the lower currency on the lower level items and the higher currency on the higher level items, and they also don't want you to like funnel all currency into one vendor. They want you to use all of them. It still feels weird that the reroll currency is not tiered, so I still save all my rerolls for later. It's just, that one part just didn't work for me personally. Also, Danik allows you to convert between the vendors, so that kind of like
Yeah.
Also,
it's strange.
stop stat functionality. It's a bit weird. So if let's say I don't like, I don't know, Tujin, like just to pick one of the people. I don't like Tujin. I think he's like not worth my effort or whatever. I can just convert all Tujin currency to ROG, right?
No, no. You can't. You can only convert Danik's currency to any other. That's it.
Yeah.
Oh, you can convert Danik to others.
So,
Okay,
So
yeah,
only
Danik,
Danik's currency you can use, but the
Okay.
Fusion one, if you have it, you can either sell it to other players or use it yourself, and that's it.
Or hide it on my loot filter, I guess.
Yeah, hide it on your loot filter. Yeah.
Okay, just like as an example. Okay, so I can't do that,
Yeah.
but I can. So yeah, I guess you can still re-roll him and see if there's anything good there.
Yeah.
But yeah, how do you feel about the vendors? Like, do you have any favorites? Why is it ROG? And do you have any ones that you think are not fun?
ROG is cool.
Yeah.
I have made some cool items with him. Nothing super crazy, but I think it's pretty cool. You just, because also it's very cheap to do those upgrades. And yeah, this base, I like it. Pum, 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 pum. All upgrade, or skip upgrade. Mine now. But Fusion is also good. I've already gotten 2 exalts from him, and I'm like, cha-ching, let's go.
Cha-ching.
Tujin's my favorite. It's just
really
gamble central.
Yeah.
Well, Gwenin is the gambler, but like Tujin is just like, I don't know, the shiny slot machine in the corner that that costs more money. It's great. I like it.
I guess it gives you currency directly instead of items.
It does, yeah. So this was frustrating. Just a small tangent. I had about 120 Gwenin rerolls, and so I used them, and then like 5 hours later, GGG was like, and we're buffing the rates that you get unique items, and I'm like, okay, I just used everything, and so I've got a really salty relationship with Gwenin now. We're not friends anymore.
That's I think like the downside of mid-league buffs. Same with like me respecking my absolution and then 3 days later getting buffed.
Yeah,
it's good for the people who are still playing it, but it feels kind of like a bit RNG based. Like, I used all my stuff, didn't kind of work, and then we're buffing it by a lot of percent. Like,
it does bring up another issue, doesn't it? Like the mid-league buffs.
Yeah, mid-league. I think that's mostly a good thing. If like a skill just doesn't freaking work, like please like give it a bit of a buff. Like La Reaper and Absolution did get a bit of a buff. I think that's to me personally that's kind of okay. It's a bit weird for the people who either like respec out of it or whatever, but it's still good to buff stuff that under delivers rather than having it bad for like 3 months.
How about nerfs? How do you feel about mid-league nerfs then?
All of this mid-league stuff, it all started with Herald Stackers, didn't it?
Mm-hmm.
It started with that one decision that GGG had to nerf a weird interaction that happened back in that was Delirium, wasn't it? When that was all happening.
I mean, they didn't really have to. The thing about Herald Stackers back then, they nerfed it by like a lot of percent and was still so OP that honestly, if you're like invulnerable or 99.9% invulnerable, does it really matter? No, it doesn't. That was my opinion on it. Like the difference between the nerfed state and the not nerfed state was so tiny compared to like the power level. Especially you have like Herald Stackers after the nerf. Nothing for 500 kilometers, and then you have like the next OP build. So
it was so funny.
That tiny nerf didn't do anything. They could have done it or not.
I mean, people flipped their shit though a little bit, but then people kept playing it, and it's like, well, actually, it's still freaking OP. And
that was the thing.
But everybody just like lost their minds, and it's like, oh my god, this is like so shit. Sell everything, price crashing, and then people were like, wait.
Yeah.
It was really funny.
I know so many people who bought during that price check bought their gear, and they're like the happiest people ever because it went right back up, and people realized, no wait, it's still OP. Never mind.
Yeah.
Because people always overreact for like a day or two about everything. It's ridiculous these days. Like we are in such like an outrage culture in the PoE community these days about like nerfs and stuff. It's just crazy.
I think it's larger than the PoE community, but
we
could open a big can of worms.
But we also have it in the PoE community now, which I don't like. I don't want it in my little cozy community. Okay,
that's true. I think the fact is
everywhere else you can't do much, but
the fact is like. We're just never going to be a little cozy community again, are we? Path of Exile, it's
not little anymore.
As much as people like to say PoE is dying, it's growing, and this league is a bit of a dip, and Path of Exile knew that, but it will continue to grow. It will continue to get bigger.
Excuse me,
back
player
in
retention
my
is
day.
down 50%. The league is dead. No one is playing the game anymore, and yeah, the company killed their own game. It's official. I don't know.
Back in
That
Legacy League. Back
Numbers
in
don't
my
lie.
day.
Yes.
Ugh.
Back in Legacy League was best league ever, right?
It was the best league.
Yeah.
I didn't even play that one. That was so good one.
No, Legacy was weird, but it was fun. Legacy was
It was
It was fun, it
micromanagement
was fun.
league. It was
Yeah,
micromanagement league.
I've got like 3 whole tabs still of the emblems in standard. It's great.
Yep.
Just sitting there.
Yeah. I didn't really play it much. I have a few of them still like around, but I didn't really play them much.
Yeah. Oh, interesting. Anyway, nostalgia. We could keep talking about nostalgia for a while.
What about the new league? How about that?
The new league.
Yeah.
So
the new league.
about the vendors, I think Tujin is the most boring dudo out of them all. He's kind of like a price. You just price gamble. You know what you get or don't get, and you just gamble the price basically. And I think that's not very interesting. Also, he mostly sells like currency and fragments and stuff, and sometimes the gem or whatever, or breach rings.
Maps, he sells maps also.
Oh, maps as well, yeah. But it's kind of like if I really, 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 really want an item, I just don't. I don't know. I just don't like gamble too low. Basically, like if there's like an item, okay, I need this right now. I just like don't go as low and like try to be safe. And if it's like something, okay, 10 alteration. Let's see how little I can pay for 10 alterations. But I feel like he's like people are like, he saves me and stuff. He's so rewarding. I'm not talking about how rewarding he is. He's like insanely rewarding. He gives you all my alchemy orbs and scours and the alterations come from him. Like he's insanely rewarding. But I don't care about that. I think he's not engaging. Like they could just drop the 10 alterations on the ground. I would have the same amount of fun. I personally don't
where's
find
the
him
Yoji
engaging.
mute button? I'll talk to Mairian about how much we enjoyed 2G.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I was like super surprised.
I mean, but even his voice lines are funny because when you undercut him a lot, he's like, "Are you taking the piss?" or something like that.
Yeah,
it's great. You taking the
I
piss
like
away?
his voice. He's kind
Yeah,
of
his voice acting is like on point. I really like him.
Yeah.
Have you ever offered him one? You should do. It's really fun.
Oh, really? Oh, I'll try it.
Yeah.
I'll
He'll flip his shit if you offer him one currency.
It's pretty great. Yeah.
He has some good voice lines if you like really undercut him or whatever. Also, if you overpay him, he's going. Yeah, if you just
like,
I accidentally just like didn't pull the trigger down, I paid him like 400 something shards for like 5 alterations. He was like, "Oh yeah, baby." I mean, yeah, that was a fair price. Yes, nothing to see. He's like he's got some really good lines.
It's great.
So I love him as like a character designer. I just don't think the haggling mechanic works particularly well for me personally. But I can see when people are having fun. Like, no, not everyone has to like every vendor.
I get what you're saying. The reason I like Tujin is not because of the haggle at all. The haggle is nothing. I just automatically every time I'm just like set it to around about 60%, click.
Well, you
doesn't
can go
work.
lower.
Set it to 60 again, click. Set it to 60. You can go lower, but I lost an exalted orb once on a 70%, like around about a 70% offer.
Oh, okay.
Whoa,
and
really?
he just took it away, and I was like, "Whoa,
He's just like,
okay,
fuck you."
So I'm being a little careful
I'll be
now.
salty.
Yeah, I was pretty
I'll
salty.
be so salty.
Yeah.
Damn. Yeah, no.
The reason I like him is just it's just the massive amount of just stuff that you get. Instant gratification, you know.
I think that's what
I'm
most
a
people like
millennial.
about him.
Instant gratification. Let's go. Just give me that 10 stack of chaos orbs. Get me out of there. I'm good.
No, I think he's rewarding, and it's like the reward itself is pretty fun, and I like the voice line, as I said. So I just think that the haggling is not the most interesting mechanic of them all. But then the gambler, like Gwenin, is super interesting. It's like kind of like throwing chance ops with more cool effects, right?
Yeah.
So it's.
I just find that I don't know if the league mechanic itself or just the game in general, compared to Ultimatum, I guess, because that was spewing out currency like crazy, is not as rewarding.
Yeah.
But unless you engage with Tujin, because he gives you a bunch of stuff. Yeah. So I feel like if I would ignore him completely, I would feel like, oof, I'm a bit starved this league for currency items, for drops in general. But maybe we're just conditioned to get so much stuff. And if you don't get it right away, you have to engage with some mechanic. And then it feels like, ooh, they're they nerfed currency drops or something, but they didn't really, because you're supposed to kind of engage with league mechanic, and then it kind of levels out.
Yeah.
That's very true. Have you talking about rewards? Have you tried logbooks?
I've tried a few, but I haven't seen a boss. And I tried with my Bone Shredder guy, and of course he's pretty freaking slow, so it's like very low tier logbooks, like 68, and it's fun. I like logbooks. I haven't done too many, but it's really cool. You have like secrets and all that fun stuff. And also, again, no timer. Love it.
Yeah,
Oh,
I love it
yes.
as well.
I get to use all my 6 portals.
Exactly.
I think honestly that so far logbooks have been my favorite side content of PoE I think ever. I really enjoy logbooks. You have like you can like really methodically play. Like look at the map, see all the icons. Yo, like Mairian's karma appeared for me.
Oh, it works.
Hello.
How did that happen?
For those either just listening or something like that, Yogi's been having a massive Discord problem where he hasn't been able to see anyone for some weird reason. We're trying to figure it out. But Mairian just popped up for him. Yay!
Ooh.
What?
Wait,
Hello?
am I still not here?
Yeah, you're not. Yeah, I can't see you.
Okay, that's so weird. Anyway, you were talking about logbooks. Yeah. Logbooks?
No, logbooks, yeah, that's super fun. You have to like actually like look at the map, see all the icons at first, and then you have to actually go around and read like what you can do and what you can't, because you might see like, oh, there's like an icon, it's like super pork, I don't know, like delirium items, I don't know, something you need, and you go over there, immune to my damage. No, and those moments, I actually don't find them frustrating. I find them hilarious and fun.
Yeah,
and you try to like plan the best route through the area while you want to still break open all the secrets that you might find. If you have a boss, you obviously want to break that open, and you also want to have the order also matters, because if you pick up powerful rewards early, it will apply to all monsters. So if you get, for example, runic monsters drop fractured items, one of my favorite ones, because they can be really, really strong to craft on, especially like in group found SSF stuff. If you pick that early and then you take like all the runic monsters over all the map, you get so many fractured items, and you can get like great. I've got some pretty good crafting bases now, which is pretty nice.
Yeah,
definitely. Yeah, there's some really, really good stuff in the logbooks. I did about it was about 15 logbooks that I dropped. I haven't bought any because if I am gonna buy some, it's gonna be later league, and I might do 50 logbooks in a row or something like that. Nice challenge, have a bit of fun. But I farmed about 15 before the supposed buff. Well, it is a buff. But since then, I've dropped 1 logbook in a week. Yeah, I don't know what happened.
I found 5, and I
really
didn't play
strange.
half as much as you.
Yeah.
I think, are you actually going for logbooks, or are you just going for
as much
rewards?
as I can? Yeah.
So you go for the logbook thing, and you go for the big skulls on the stick.
Oh yeah,
basically all the time.
Yeah.
Okay, because
everyone's
since
coming
I
into
started
chat
doing
and they're always like, "Oh, no, you got to do it this way," and I'm like, "Yeah, no, I'm aware. I've just got really bad luck."
Yeah, I mean, you can also get bad luck, or maybe I was just lucky with my 5 logbooks. Chad was like, "Oh, there's a lot of logbooks just while leveling." I was like,
I think I am very unlucky. From what I've heard from most people, is they have been getting a logbook, every 10 to 20 maps maybe, if they're fully focusing on them. But I just haven't dropped any, and I'm just kind of like, all right, maybe I'll just have to buy a bunch. Chris wants me to invest in the economy, so yeah.
The logbooks for me, I mean, I don't know what happened. It was since they buffed them maybe, but if you're doing the league mechanic while you're leveling, I don't know, they drop so often. I felt like they were dropping so much, and then they kind of taper off in maps. They drop a bit less, but I still find them. I don't know. On average, I don't know how many maps I do to find the logbook, but at least per session, I will find 1 or 2 logbooks.
I mean, maybe that's why, because I was mostly leveling, right? I was like just re-rolling. Maybe that's why I found so many logbooks.
Yeah. There are some, I'm still trying to figure out, there are some mobs that, I think quantity of items dropped from monsters does work.
Yeah.
I think people are testing that pack size doesn't actually work for logbooks. Pack size doesn't increase the amount of runic monsters. It only increases
There's one that
monsters.
Doubles runic monsters.
There is that one, which is amazing. Yeah. If you see the
Yeah.
double runic, then that's just basically, 100% more chance type of thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's big money. But then, once again, I've been coming across this, a lot. I found one that was 2 of the 50% increased chance for logbooks, on the first chain, and then the second one was a duplicate runic monsters, and then I just picked up as many runic monsters as I could, and nothing, and I'm like, ugh, what's going on? Oh well, I just have to keep farming. Maybe my luck will turn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so cool. And that's what the bosses are. I actually looked at the boss fights. So normally I try to not spoil myself with boss fights. But last league kind of showed me that maybe I will never encounter the league boss. So I just decided this time around I'm just gonna look at the boss fights. And what I've seen so far, without giving any spoilers, these might be some of the best bosses we've seen ever in PoE.
Yeah.
I haven't seen any. So.
Since Synthesis probably. Like those were like Synthesis bosses at the time were way above the curve of any boss design we've had to that point, and I think these ones also are way above the curve for what we currently have in boss design.
Yeah, I agree. They're really great. Yeah, once again, without trying to spoil anything, I think I've only fought 2 of the 4. I found one of the bosses 5 times in a row in 5 logbooks. So that was cool, but also kind of frustrating because it was like, nice. New boss, it's the same boss. It's the same boss. So it was exciting, but also I just didn't find any of the other bosses.
Do they spawn only like 68 plus logbooks, or because I think
so? Yeah.
Oh, okay, because I did a few like bit less.
Yeah.
Lower level
what the spawn
ones.
Rate is.
Yep. You can also find logbooks that have the boss name on the basically have the mod contains this boss, right? So you know that you can.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean that's the only way to get them. You can just get.
Yeah, they can also randomly spawn, but you can find if you find like this map is inhabited by this boss, then their boss will 100% be there basically.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty
I'm just worried my character's a bit too squishy to take, because I've heard people saying that these are actually challenging, and I'm like, okay, it's gonna be interesting.
There seem very mechanical boss fights where you actually have to play around stuff and look at stuff. And with our nerf damage, you probably will not as easily get to the point where you nuke them. At least from what I've seen, most people didn't nuke them. They actually have to fight and play around the stuff.
They have a lot of health. They really do. And they were. I think a couple of them were bugged on release where they wouldn't inherit. Yeah, of course, they wouldn't inherit modifiers from the chests or whatever.
They do. But if you chain explode them,
they gain the modifiers now. Yeah, but they used to not. But yeah, you can make them very, very dangerous. So yeah, it's interesting.
And in turn, the quantity and rarity should also apply to them, right? If I get 300% rarity and 20% quantity.
I don't know. I need to do testing before I start, spewing off false information. I think it does, but yeah. If you give the bosses poison or bleed or something like that or anything, it's so dangerous. Or
Ellie Pen of the Element sounds pretty good. Something like that.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Yep. Yeah, especially with all the changes to ailments, which we haven't really talked about too much, but yeah.
Basically,
overall, I think logbooks are awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. If you find the boss, maybe go for him at the beginning of the chain, so you don't stack too many buffs. Because the buffs can be a bit.
Yeah. Yeah. It's I think there needs to be a lot of extensive work done on the bosses, like research done on the bosses of doing them straight away and then doing them at the end of the chain to really figure out what is worth it or not. But from what I've seen, this is, purely anecdotal, the drops themselves don't matter too much how many mods you have on it. So it's kind of like a purely challenge thing. But once again, that very much could be
Do they
wrong.
have uniques on that drop table or something like that? Or is it just for funsies?
I've killed 7 bosses and I've never seen a unique. So
really?
I think they do. Yeah, no, the drops from them, I don't want to get into spoiler territory, but the drops have felt terrible from the bosses, which was really, really disappointing. But yeah.
Considering if the fight is pretty hard.
Yeah.
That sounds a bit like they erred on the side of let's make the bosses more common than trial masks because that was a common complaint.
They were common when I was doing logbooks. Yeah.
Yeah, but in turn they turned down the rewards so they don't are too rewarding or whatever. But maybe they went a bit overboard.
Even then, though, they do feel like Trial Master. I fought about 20 Trial Master. Yeah. I fought about 20 last league, and nothing. He dropped nothing for me, so...
Exactly. Even how rare Trial Master was, I think I got only, from all the Trial Masters I killed, which was quite a few, because for the challenge I had to farm a bajillion of them.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I only got, 2 helms. And that's it.
I had not seen a Trial Master all last league. But last league, I mean, I didn't play that much, but I also didn't play that little. By the way, I ended last league without finding a single pure exalt drop, which was pretty hilarious. And I played like 5 or 6 characters to over 90, that was pretty unlucky.
That's pretty unlucky, yeah.
That is really unlucky.
Yep.
That was really hilarious, but I also didn't find trial master. But I didn't spend too much time in rap maps and like farming super juiced content or whatever. I was just like leveling, trying out stuff. But yeah, a trial master was too rare. I'm really happy that these bosses are a bit more common, and I hope to see at least a few of them.
I'm sure you will. Yeah, if you do logbooks, like you'll find some. You definitely will. Yeah, even just the random ones.
That's so nice.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
The overall league seems to be rather good, so from what I've heard from you. You're not, like, unhappy about it.
I'm not unhappy. No, not at all.
I'm also happy they didn't implement ultimatum right now.
Yes, I have to say as well. Especially, I feel like, similar as like Badger said, like, rituals feel really spammy, like, compared to what we normally do these days. And ultimatum was, like, ritual times 10 or something.
Yeah.
So... Yeah.
Because with all the, first of all, because of how many monsters, they already addressed that in that post, that when they are not adding ultimatum, they addressed that it was so many monsters, so many rare monsters. Now, get that with like a league starting, with like nerfed stuff, and people are already struggling with the normal content. So imagine ultimatum, like it was so over, like compared to the normal stuff, so overtuned. I don't know, like, people would be skipping it or hating their lives, really, with that.
You could still play. I played Ice Trap last league, because you could still play Ice Trap.
Ice Trap's really good. I tested my last league Ice Trapper, and he's killing everything still really fast. Maven, everything, still a really good build.
Yeah.
Ice Trap's nice.
Oh, it's very strong. Very strong. Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
It's interesting.
We got the nerf topic left, right?
Oh yeah, nerfs.
The gaming in a post nerf apocalypse.
They're not controversial bit at all.
Oh, not at all. No, I've been pretty up and down in terms of like, well, mainly flasks, but I think I've come to a conclusion with flasks. But I'm not gonna talk about the conclusion yet because we're not at that point.
But let's start about flasks then, though. I think I put the flasks at the end, but let's start with flasks then, because I think that might be the strongest opinions thrown around. So, what do you think about the flasks? How are you even dealing with flasks? Are you running like automated flasks, triggers? Are you just pianoing still? Are you putting what they call enkindling orbs to never have flasks up, but when they are up, they're powerful? That's like the options we have right now, right? Or are you playing a Pathfinder who doesn't care still, apparently, from what I've heard?
Pathfinder's really good, yeah. I've come to the conclusion that it's going to take me a few leagues to kick my piano habit. I'm still 100% pianoing everything. I'm trying not to. And it might even mean that I will actually just have to change a couple of the hotkeys to kind of rewire my brain in a different way. Because, like, for me, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and space are kind of my flasks. Space is usually either a mana flask if I need mana, or it's a damage flask if it's like a big damage or something like that.
Mm-hmm. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, you just spam. The 4, the space bar is basically like your on-demand flask, and you have a life flask on top.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Pretty much. So I'm still pianoing everything, but I've found that at the start, all of the flask changes were really abrupt. I was really noticing how much less charges we were getting. Mana was really weird with all the skills and everything like that. And I've come to the conclusion that you kind of just now, like, for most builds that need mana, you just have an enduring mana flask. You just like that's in your build now. That's in your build. There you go. And then your flasks, the rest of them are just kind of normal. The same, but you're just generating a few less charges. So you just try and press the buttons. For me, at least, this is very me. I'm just trying to press the buttons a little bit less. I have a mana flask. And now I'm not really noticing much anymore. I'm not, running out of charges way too much. The other interesting thing is all of the nerfs to unique flasks has meant that my builds don't feel like they need unique flasks in them to deal damage. So I just don't really use unique flasks anymore. And then that means that I can use more defensive flasks, and it's kind of okay. And then I'm not min-max. I'm never min-max with my flasks. I've used a couple of instilling orbs to get some, on freeze on my freeze flasks, that sort of thing, and that's about it. And now I'm just kind of like, it's okay. It's just different. I don't have any other thoughts really on them. But yeah, what do you guys think about the flasks? How have you been feeling with them?
Well, for me, I find that those orbs that you need to roll the flasks, I mean, they are not dropping that much. So I actually have used them very little. I still piano flask because it's so hard. And also, they've changed it that you have to be more reactive instead of proactive with the flasks. And I'm still like pre-flasking, and I'm like, damn it, why did I do that? Now I don't have freeze immunity anymore for when they freeze me, because runic monsters apparently love cold damage. And so I don't know. It's very hard to change your habits when you've been so many leagues pressing all your flasks. Like I usually press 2, 3, 4, 5 all the time.
Yeah.
And then 1 is my life flask, and I just 2, 3, 4, 5 all the time, and I just run out of flasks so fast because we got less charges, they recoup slower, and I'm just like, oh man, I'm out of flasks. Like this is gonna be horrible. Have to leave the map now to get back in for a boss fight, for example, because you don't really want to have no immunities. And also now that we have nerfed element immunity, you can't really get it very easily on everybody. So I don't have element immunity, so I have to make sure that I have freeze immunity on flasks. I have when I shock, no, but ignite is also a bit iffy. Poison is so horrible. I actually have poison immunity flask.
Yeah.
So dangerous. Like
Poison's
they buff the poison.
rippy.
Damn, even leveling is like, oh my god, these guys are wrecking me. Like 4 poisons. Goodbye, character.
I mean, once you get nice characters, it's getting a lot better. But
Yeah.
like early on, when you're still rocking that, like maybe -20, -30, even if you're like investing a bit, maybe like around 0, that's still not enough. Like, you want like a good chunk of positive chaos res now, I feel, or some poison flask, some way to deal with poison, because poison map mods, you really feel them, man. Yeah, you want to be able to run poison remnants as well.
Yeah.
Actual investment.
Yeah. No, I do that as well, but like just it's very dangerous, and so
Poison.
yeah.
As always, Badger, you died to poison again.
Oh, okay. You guys could hear me, but stream couldn't hear me. Whoopsies. I was muted on stream because I was
don't worry, he didn't say anything.
Doing something. Yeah, I was just talking about poison and dying from poison a lot, right? Yeah.
Yep.
Hey everyone, welcome back.
Were you muted through the whole flask thing? No, right? Because
no, it was just for what I was just talking about just then.
Okay.
Yeah.
That is not as bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. The only good thing. Sorry, I'll finish. The only good thing is that because how they changed the immunities, reactive immunities, that they are now much better on life and mana flask. So actually, life and mana flask got buffed. Mm-hmm. All the rest got more or less nerfed, but life and mana flask, like bleed immunity on life flask, chef's kiss.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
No,
yeah, I had that sometimes before, but it got annoying if you had like a tanky mob that had corrupted blood, whatever the nemesis mod.
Yeah.
Now it's like, okay, I got 4 seconds to kill that. That should be enough, even on like a bit Z DPS build to kill a tanky rare.
Yeah.
And even if not, you have 2 charges, so you should be able to still do it. It's I think that's like some disconnects and like how flasks should be used now that don't make sense to me. So most of the flasks you want to use proactively, right? So for example, a granite flask, a jade flask, you want to use that when you think you will be hit by mobs, because using it afterwards makes no sense. Like absolutely not. But if you put mods on there that are, if you are frozen, shocked, whatever, you remove shock and become then immune, you have to wait to be hit. So I think those flasks, those mods don't really work. So I was like, okay, I got my freeze immunity, whatever. On like I was super lucky on my first instilling orb. I got a unfrozen aquamarine, and I rolled freeze removal on there as well. So I got like 7.5 seconds of reduced effect and 4 seconds of immunity whenever I get frozen, which is nice. I mean, you could also take the jug node and not care, but that frees up an ascendancy slot, so it's nice. And that feels good. That makes, like, as a whole, makes a lot of sense, that flask. But then I have a granite flask of bleed removal. Do I want to use that when I get bled and wait, like, basically always keep charges so it kind of like triggers when I remove bleed? or do I want to proactively use it when I get hit? Same with like a shock jade flask or whatever. If I have like porcupines and a lightning damage map shock me, do I want to like wait for them to hit me, or do I want to use the jade flask so I don't get destroyed by the porcupines? And I think that is a bit weird. So I decided, okay, maybe I want to use something else on my granite flask. But then there's not that much good stuff. There's the most stuff that's actually good on flask is the non-proactive reactive stuff now. That's like the stuff you roll on your flask to check all the boxes. So they maybe need some more good proactive mods, like to basically you have to decide, I want to use this and this flask reactively to counter effect these and these mechanics that are dangerous to my build, and then I have, let's say, like these 2 or 3 good mods that are proactive that I want to use on my proactive flask that I will spam before I engage a monster pack. That I think would make more sense. I think currently the system just doesn't add up to something that I'm like, okay, yeah, this makes sense as a concept. And that's my main issue with the whole flask system. Like overall, I'm feeling like kind of alright about it, but it doesn't feel like it's a concept that someone really thought through. It seems like something like an old concept with something new patched onto it that kind of like wasn't thought through properly. That's what it feels like to me currently.
Good point.
I very much feel that way. You know, it's the 5 flask system with so many different flasks is messy. I think in an ARPG, it's probably Path of Exile's weakest point is the whole flask system, and it does kind of feel like with the base system that is here, no amount of patching is really going to make it feel great, in my opinion. But also the game is so balanced around that, and there's so many intricate things to do with flasks and how they work and everything like that, that changing the core of how flasks are would mean changing so many other things as well. It's got so many other implications. So I get what they're trying to do. They're trying to make the best out of a bad situation that they've got, I think. I think they know that. I don't think they think that their flask system is amazing. I don't
think they nailed it, no.
Yeah,
I think they know. I think they know they didn't nail it yet. The thing is, before they never touched Flask, basically. Flask were like they were for like forever, right? Yeah. So if they had not touched it this patch, they could have probably let us complain about it for like another 2 years, and it would have just been the same complaints we've always given. But now that they've once touched it, they kind of opened a can of worms, and people are like now super aware of this system, and that they are changing, willing to change it. So it will escalate until they fix it.
Yep.
So yeah, they kind of brought that topic up themselves, basically.
Definitely. Yeah. Is there like any interaction that you're really happy with, like any cool interaction with specific flasks that you found and specific enchantments through enkindling or instilling that you really like? Like, what's your go-to at the moment? I'm trying to think for me what it is.
Well, there's obviously the overflowing chalice.
Oh yeah, a lot
interaction that if you kind of roll down, if you use this flask, you activate that one, and then it's basically one button to press all your flasks. And during that duration, they get a bunch more charges back. So you basically can keep up all your flasks if you do that. Not sure which one, enkindling orb or whatever, that increases the duration, but you can't gain charges during the duration. Yeah. So your overflowing chalice lasts like, I don't know, like 8-10 seconds. You just keep your flasks up all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, you will run out of charges on like a boss fight, but like 8 seconds is a lot of time in PoE, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, it very much is. The enkindling can... Yeah, I was playing around with an enkindling on a Wise Oak, and I got it to like 12 seconds duration. I was like, whoa. Okay, that's quite
really OP. Especially for boss fights. That's really good. You get like 2 uses out of that. Or 3 uses even on that flask. It was really
great. Yeah, really good.
Wow. That's really good, yeah.
I was leveling with a enkindled Quicksilver flask that had reduced charges used, and I had a belt with reduced charges used, and it had a prefix with reduced charges used. And I had like 10 uses or something like that. It was like ridiculous.
Whoa!
It doesn't recharge it doesn't recharge while it's up. That's like the downside, right? But you basically like press Quicksilver, run. Oh, you can counter mobs, you kill them. That's usually when it runs out, and it just like can use it for like 5-6 times, and you're like, oh, the blue pack, kill that. Then run 5 times, use it 5 times, oh, blue pack. And that was kind of cool. I still have that for future re-rolling characters. I think that's going to be a fun one.
Yeah.
Especially if you pair it with one that does recharge, because while leveling you can easily run 2 Quicksilvers. You pair it with one that does recharge, you will always have a Quicksilver.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool.
I mean, for boss fights, that's really good. Because you don't usually get flash charges back anyways.
Yeah.
In boss fights, unless they have ads. So it's really good, these really long duration flasks. Is that a buff?
Yeah, they're either the durations or the ones that you can use a lot of times. I think like a flask that you can use like 5-6 times during a boss fight, for example, for Sirius, is kind of nice because Sirius has like these. He teleports around a lot, and you have a lot of opportunities to do damage for a short time. So like a 12-second duration wouldn't really help you that much. But I feel like being able to activate it like 6 times during a phase, that's probably more useful. So I think there's some nice uses.
Yeah.
I'm
it's all very
excited
niche,
to try
though.
a Pathfinder because of these flask changes, and
Yeah,
I think
good
people are
stuff.
kind of scared of the flasks, and I think Pathfinder really makes it a lot easier from what I've looked at. But well, have you seen the new ward flasks, the restore ward on use?
No, I've not experimented with ward at all.
I haven't either, but like I'm crunching a few numbers, and I think it's possible to get a very, very, very tanky Pathfinder in the way of having a couple of those flasks, and a bunch of ward, and then basically ward the instilling orbs on those flasks to like use on a savage hit or use on something else, and then restore ward, and then get your ward back, and then look. Your ward is going to go away from small hits as well, but then you go like crazy evasion or this kind of stuff. And anyway, like roundabout way of saying, I think Pathfinder is the ascendancy if you're going to make a ward build to do ward on Pathfinder. The main thing about ward is the duration that you have to wait for ward to come back, and the flasks completely bypass that. So I think there's a way, and there's a way to almost make that automated.
What about that unique that they showed, which lowers the recovery time of ward, plus you get your increased energy shield applied to ward as well, or something like that?
Yes, I'm just looking it up right now. So yeah, there's like, it's the Faith Guard helmet. So it has 30% faster restoration of ward. So that goes from 5 seconds to like 3.75 type of thing, or 3.5 or something like that.
Is it 5 seconds to recover ward? I thought it was 4.
Yeah.
I think it's 5
seconds. 5 seconds, and it comes instantly back at that point.
Okay.
But then you do get the increases and reductions to max energy shield instead apply to ward. So
instead, though, so you can't stack it with ES. Okay.
Yeah. So
no.
Which is a bit rough, but then the flasks
like something
themselves
like
are really interesting.
Assassin or like Trickster or something like that. Maybe you, because you have those nodes, life nodes that give you energy shield and life at the top.
Trickster's
something like
pretty
that.
good. I think Trickster could be good. The
But
flasks themselves are really interesting. I'm just looking at them right now. So you've got Olroth's Resolve, which is one of the restore ward on use. It has a line that says ward does not break during flask effect. Now, I'd need to test that. I don't know what that does, but does that mean it just functions as another energy shield, or does it mean?
Yeah, what I understood it is that usually ward is, no matter how much damage you take, the rest is taken away anyways. And how I understand it is, you probably will still take the damage to the ward. So let's say you have 500 ward, you take 200 damage. It takes instead of taking all away, it will take 200 away. Is how I understand.
So like,
that's really good.
Type of thing.
That's really good.
But then it has 70% less ward during flask effect. So there's the downside.
How much? 70?
70% less.
Okay, never mind. High killed. Next flask.
That's a bit rough.
And you know, if
you know what's best with that? That scales with flask effect because it's a number. So if you're going Pathfinder, you can get up to 90% less ward.
Exactly.
Yes, let's go.
Then there's Varana's Preparation, which is, restores ward on use, once again, an iron flask. Debilitate enemies nearby for 2 seconds when the flask effect
less damage
ends.
Or whatever?
So less movement speed and less damage.
Yeah.
Flask effect is removed when ward breaks, and then you've got Culling Strike during... That's weird. Culling Strike during flask effect. When your ward breaks, the flask effect is removed, and then it debilitates. So it's kind of like when your ward breaks, you debilitate enemies nearby, which is kind of cool. I like that.
What happens if you use that when your ward is down? Because your ward can't break when
it restores ward. So
Oh,
all
it
of these
restores.
flasks
That's
give
why.
you
That's
your
how
ward
it
back.
works. Okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you will always have ward when it's up. Okay.
Yes, yeah. And then there's two others. There's four unique flasks. Wow. Okay, the other one is recover life per endurance charge on use, lose your endurance charges on use, and gain endurance charge per second during flask effect.
How much life do I get back asking for a jug?
Well, that's like 40% of life, right? With like 10 endurance charge. The 10 is a lot, but
But 10 is not that much
Not that much.
for a
Can be
jug
doable.
with all endurance charges. Like
Or
getting
chieftain
8
also.
Getting 8 is pretty achievable, let's say.
yeah. So 40%,
That
so
sounds
4%
like
per
pretty-
charge. It's pretty
Nice.
And the
I like-
last one's just, giving exposure to enemies. That's kind of boring.
Exposure is
Inflict
pretty good though. The good
But
stats.
all of
yeah.
those are iron flasks. All of those are
Iron
ward
flasks, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I could see a 4 iron flask Pathfinder that cycles between them with really high evasion and block. Yeah, okay.
Well,
I'm gonna stop theory crafting. Let's.
Yeah, but like
This is
evasion,
not the
can you
time.
really stack evasion if you're going ward? Because if you
Yeah,
really
that's
want
the
to
issue.
stack a lot of
Dodge.
ward,
I would say dodge, not evasion.
Oh,
You'd be
yeah.
stacking dodge and block. And there are ways to bypass, because obviously if you go acrobatics, then you get a lot less block. You get like 33% less block.
But
There
you
are
can
ways to
misward it,
avoid
whatever.
acrobatics and still stack dodge and block and ward.
Yeah.
Maybe. Maybe.
We'll see. I'm curious. If you do that build, I'll definitely follow what you're doing, because that seems like an experiment that could either go well or like horribly fail. And it's
See, the one
either way,
thing-
it's going to be entertaining.
The one thing that we haven't talked about at all is how does the build deal damage? So, yeah. And usually in
don't-
Path of Exile, you want to deal
just
damage,
don't.
so...
Just don't.
just don't,
Yeah.
just don't
Just
die, and that's it.
just
Yeah,
don't deal
if you're
damage.
unkillable, you'll eventually kill them, right? That's like my plan for
Yeah,
the joke
true.
as well.
Yeah. Yeah. But speaking of other nerfs, if we can move on from our theory crafting of ward and, the talk about flasks,
Talking about
There's-
ZDPS.
the mana changes that came through as well. And there's a couple of things with this, because we had some pretty significant mana reservation, well, both reservation and mana cost changes coming in. And then a few days later, a significant revert. Well, not full revert, but a significant backtracking on that.
Very noticeable. Like they probably went
Very
back
noticeable.
like 40% or something, probably 30,
Yeah,
40%.
which is a lot. It really is a lot.
It adds up amongst all the supports. Really does make a difference.
Definitely. Yeah. And I think I do agree. Like, if I can just chuck my 2 cents in first, I do agree that the initial mana increases were probably a little bit too much, but it was pretty reactionary how they took it back as well, and be like, oops, our bad. Yeah, let's take some of that off. Yeah, what do you guys think about the whole changes here?
Well,
I think Yoji has some ideas, but Mairian.
I'll keep them. I want to hear yours.
Yeah.
no, well, the whole idea of like making triggers cost mana. I mean, it's fine. Sure, like most of the times, like if you have like that trigger weapon, like that was very popular. Put a wand or whatever for casters to trigger things. The mana cost of those wouldn't be that noticeable, because you usually, if you're a caster, you already have some mana. But like for attack builds to trigger things, especially like this Battle Mage's Cry, I found that like I don't know how people would build it. If, for example, what I did initially was use a spell that cost mana to Battle Mage's Cry to trigger it, and it was unsustainable. It was impossible. And eventually I switched to Exsanguinate to convert it fully to fire, Exsanguinate trigger, and that worked way better because it was on mana, or on life. But then you have something like what is a Spellslinger, and not only do you reserve your mana to be able to use Spellslinger, now you have to pay the cost of this spell. And usually, as a Spellslinger, you're already reserving so much mana. Like, where's the?
Yeah.
That felt like oof. I don't know. Maybe it's better now as a spell. I don't know if people are playing Spellslinger at all. Maybe it's better now since they reverted some of the cost, brought it back down a little bit. But like, I don't know. On a attack build, which usually attacks cost way less mana than spells. I don't know how you can put those two together, like with Spellslinger, with Battle Mage's Cry. It's just really rough.
Yeah. So I think some builds definitely got hit a lot, as you said. Like I think Spellslinger definitely got hit a bit much. One thing you didn't mention is the Herald builds. If you link Herald of Purity 4, 5, 6, link it, or Agony. You have you especially early on, you basically have to run what's called Coming Calamity, the chess piece.
Yep.
That's the only way. On the other hand, Coming Calamity got insanely amounts of like buffs compared. Like before, it was like it took your reservation from, let's say, like 80, 90 to like 45. Now it takes it from like 160 to 45, which is pretty good. Like relatively, it got buffed because it's still a set number, right? It just sets your reservation to a certain value.
Yes.
So it got a relative buff, but it's really hard to get out. It used to be like always used to be like the band-aid item that you use early on before you can like get your proper setup with some reservation here and there. Yeah. And now it's basically getting out of Coming Calamity is basically your end game level 98 goal, which is
got all those, I think there's some reduced mana reserve gems you'll have to get and all that. It's like it's rough.
All the equalities, like all the stuff that basically you can get, and then you are like, okay, I'm like 98% mana, or you get to the point where you get reserve 100% and use enough minus mana to not use mana on anything else. That's the other option. So I think there's definitely some builds that kind of like fell over the cliff and be like, oops, forgot about you guys, which is like Spellslinger. But I don't think like some things are actually pretty doable. For example, I know a few people playing Cast on Grid, which is super nice because it's super cheap. No one thinks it's good. It's still good. It still works. You can also do one of the people is doing EB Inquisitor. Crit scaling from Inquis and then just go EB and be completely fine because insane region and MOM and be tanky. It's a good bit. It actually is a good build. I looked at it, I was like, yo, this looks like super legit. It's like, mana issues? What's mana issues? People just forgot EB exists because never needed it. On the other hand, Absolution, for example, costs a crap ton of mana. It costs like 100-ish mana per cast base if you 6-link it. I did like a very revolutionary tactic that has been forgotten since the ancient times of PoE where I started playing. I spec mana nodes. I know it's pretty crazy to think about that, but I just like took like 6 mana nodes and it just solved my mana. It's ridiculous. And I just took mana nodes. I know it feels horrible to spec nodes that don't give you damage in PoE or life, but I run a Clarity as well, like level 7.
Whoa.
I mean, the investment. Also, there's like this little life wheel that gives you a reduced mana cost of skills. I kind of started picking that up more because it's actually pretty good now.
Yeah, it's good.
And there's also the 2 mana nodes on Templar that give you reduced cost of skills. If you have like 120 cost, that reduces it to like 80. That's pretty good. I think that was really nice. Yeah. So I think there's ways people are just like basically. If I look at the tree, they just don't see mana nodes anymore. They just like deleted them from their vision because previously they were not worth picking up ever unless you're like an Archmage build. I think losing 4 to 6 nodes on your tree is a power drop. Yes, that's I think what people try to communicate when they say this is unplayable, because people always say castables are absolute, self-cast is dead, it's unplayable. No, it just lost 5 passes.
Yeah,
there's some cases where it's a bit more difficult, like traps and mines are pretty tricky, but there's a lot of traps and mine players, so apparently they're still doing kind of alright. I think people have widely overreacted. There are problematic areas, which is I think Battle Mage Cry is probably one of the worst because you have to pay the war cry, you have to pay the spell, and you have to pay the attack. I think that's ridiculous. I think the Battle Mage Cry could have had the Mjolnir treatment. I find it weird that Mjolnir got the Mjolnir treatment.
That was strange.
out of all things. I think their idea was, the downside of having 500 bazillion strength and int is already pretty high, so they wanted to give it a little bit of an upside. I don't know if that was
now it's like
needed.
really OP comparatively.
Now it's really, really good. Which I think wasn't really needed. I think they could have just gone without it for now and then
see how it goes.
Maybe they talked to the supporter who made the unique. I think it's a supporter unique. That could be, sometimes happens. I don't know if that guy still plays. And we don't know what happens, but I found that interesting that they made that like this one exception. It's like, yo, by the way, this hammer, no, you're cool, dude. Everyone else get wrecked. But
it's interesting as well because there are some changes that there are some positive changes to come from some of these mana changes. Specifically the trigger, most of the trigger stuff costing mana. There are a lot of new interactions that have been brought to light, or I think will be brought to light more from things like this. Like you can now use Archmage on triggered spells. You can trigger triggers off triggers that cost mana to then... Anyway, there's really interesting things that you can do with, say, for example, a Katava's Thirst helmet, which I want to play around with. Like, there's new things that have been added. It's not all just, a nerf for the sake of a nerf. And I think Chris talked about this a little bit. I can't remember. It might have been in the Ziggy D interview, where he talked about introducing new skills into the game. And the way the game was made it very difficult for unique skills to be introduced because they would always be busted in some way with triggers. Yeah. They would always be like, well, new skill. Here's new skill, community. What are you going to do with it? Everyone says, oh, we're going to put that on a Spellslinger. We're going to cast on crit that, and we're going to put it on a Spellslinger. And that's legitimately what happened. That's what happened with Exsanguinate and Reap, right?
Yeah, but funnily enough, that happened this league as well. That's like the best part about it. A lot of people are playing Mana Bond Mjolnir, and that's like the same story all over again.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's really hilarious.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think you're right, and I think that's probably a good change for like future stuff, as you said.
Yeah, I think it is a change. I think the main change for them is they just want to be able to introduce unique skills that don't just instantly get busted if you look at it a certain way. They want it to be... They want the new skills they introduce to be balanced. And look, they probably need to balance the skills for them to be balanced, as we found this league. But hey, I think that's part of it, to kind of, add some reason. I know the community doesn't really like reason right now, but I'll try and add some reason into topics.
Maybe Xerxes makes a comeback now with all these triggers. You can put it with Archmage. That's lots of mana.
Yeah.
That's lots of life recovered.
Yeah. It's true. Yep.
That's true. That's like a lot of cool stuff. I think enabled that we haven't really looked into. But I think as Badger says, I think as I mentioned and Mairian mentioned also, I think a lot of stuff is just not fine-tuned well. I think a lot of good ideas and directions has happened, but this patch is just so scuffed in terms of actual tuning all these new mechanics against each other.
Yeah.
And I thought this was something that GGG learned from Heist when they said, "Yo, we're not going to make too many changes at once anymore. We try to make more focused patches." That's what they say after Heist, right? They try to not go too overboard. I think that's exactly what they did again. I think they're already back at their old pattern.
They are.
That's what it feels to me.
It's creative.
They're
being very creative. They're being a very creative company, and they're trying to break stereotypes and all this kind of stuff. They're trying to do all this, but you are right, Yoji. They are kind of back to their old tricks, I think. It's interesting.
Yeah, well, I think it's probably a bit easier adding a lot of things and see what sticks.
Yeah.
Instead of just a few things and then none of them stick and people are just playing the same old things over and over. Like, I mean, even now we have ED, Contagion, still pretty good apparently. Even though they really gutted a lot of damage over time. Like all my Ignite builds, completely gone. Yeah. I feel so sad about that. I mean,
Ignite
could they have brought them a bit?
Mechanic.
Yeah, if they could have brought it back a little bit, but like they completely got it. Like Ignite Discharge, it was such a good build, and
I'm gonna have to leave. I'm too upset right now. I'm sorry.
It just doesn't work. I mean, Fire Burst is still really good for clear. I tested my last league character. It's good for clear, but single target is ugh.
Yep. So on the other hand, Fireburst, you have your staff. You can still have a single target set up in your chest.
You can put something, as for single target to help you. That's true.
Did anyone, by the way, I messed around a bit in Standard with Firestorm because they buffed the numbers again by a big margin. Did anyone try that as well?
I think Firestorm's going to be the eternal
biggest meme.
It's the eternal meme now.
It still does absolutely no damage, by the way.
I think every league it will get buffs, and every league it will be one of the worst skills in the game, so...
I think it's mechanically flawed.
Yeah.
I think Ignite, just to quickly say, just on Ignite, playing around with numbers, well, and this is kind of damage over time in general now, you do kind of have to go critical route. There's now a lot of that. Previously, there was way more scaling just to generic damage over time multiplier than there was to critical, like damage over time multiplier with critical strikes or perfect agony or something like that. With the massive gut to damage over time multiplier and cluster duels and everything like that, it's kind of flipped. And the only real viable way now, and unfortunately it's quite high investment, is to invest into critical ailments. So critical ignites, critical damage poison, which was already a thing with Assassin, but
it was always better at a super high budget because the values on the damage over time multiplier and the damage nodes were always a tiny bit higher than the non-crit ones. And if you get the crit multi to apply as well, it was always like, okay, if you invest like upwards of 100 exalts, it was always the better version in the end. Less tanky because you have to invest more damage stats, but it wasn't the higher damage version, let's say. But now, I think now there's like the threshold where the crit build basically surpasses the non-crit build is way lower now, and I think could be.
What about poison? I mean, supposedly they buffed base damage for poison. Even if they brought back like the multipliers on the cluster jewels, how is poison feeling? I have not played poison. I know on monsters, poison's really good. So maybe for players
poison
also.
For a day, so yeah, I can't really comment on it.
I heard it's decent enough. It's better than before, apparently, like especially relatively with everything else being nerfed. It's doing pretty decently. But yeah. I mean, I found a Dark Squad in our group found, so I'm really waiting for someone to pick that up and make a build.
So Yoji, this actually looked legitimately good. A Darkscorn replica Alberon's Path, strength stacking Juggernaut, Storm Rain Poison.
Juggernaut? Okay, I didn't expect the Juggernaut there.
Strength stacking Jug for accuracy into attack speed into all that kind of stuff. Anyway, the numbers actually were looking very fine. But there's, you need your replica Alberons. You probably need a couple of other uniques to strength stack with. But anyway, maybe, it's cool.
I thought just doing like Scourge Arrow Pathfinder, but that seems pretty cool.
Yeah, Scourge Arrow Pathfinder. Yeah, look, Darkscorn's good. Yeah.
And also like that probably can work because like I'm not in like an actual trade league. We're just like a few people, like sharing items. So we are kind of like SSF, but with like a few more people. So getting like all the setup you need for like an accuracy, strength stacking Juggernaut bow build probably not possible right now.
It's a bit rough. Yeah,
that's a bit too specific, right?
Yeah, it's very specific.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it sounds like a really cool
Lots
idea.
of words.
I always wanted
the
to
numbers
try
were looking good.
Alberons.
Yeah, the numbers were looking good, but once again,
it feels like, the more words you put into the more words you put into a build title, the less SSF viable it becomes.
Yeah. Oh yes.
Also, the more meme worthy it becomes also because it could be like a really cool meme.
Yeah. I think that's why I always keep getting drawn back to trade is not because of I want to be able to, juice the meta build as fast, as much as possible, which a lot of people do, is just because the freedom that it does give me to try really stupid ideas and see if one of them sticks. That's Path of Exile for me. It's so good.
I think that's what trade is best for, and that's like I think that's like the main reason for trade, other than I just want to be powerful, okay? Which is a good reason as well, but something I don't identify with. But I can really understand wanting to try different things at a faster pace and being able to like try really wonky stuff and also like try out different uniques on the same setup. Like if you farm up one unique in like 2 weeks, you can't do that if you want to try 7 different uniques in that slot, right?
Yeah. Very much so.
Talking about trade, one thing I wanted to ask you, trade players, is how does the vendor stuff work in trade? Because is it like you can easily get to the point where it's better to sell the currency than use the vendors and stuff like that, right? I mean, you can always block that off, but is that a thing in trade where people are just like, is Tujin really worth it? Yes, no, maybe today it is, tomorrow it's not. That's always a problem, right?
Especially the reroll currency is apparently super... probably better to sell to players, usually, like a lot of things are, especially in trade, to sell them to other players and get the guaranteed money instead of trying to gamble. But I don't subscribe to that idea. It's like, most of the time, I don't even sell the scarabs I don't use, because what if I want to use them?
Yeah. So I call myself, and it sounds like, Mairian, you're the same kind of way, like a lazy trade player where, like, I hoard so much stuff I'll never use that I might use, and it's the same thing with the reroll currency. But yeah, Yoji, for example, like his little anecdote. I think there was someone in my chat that said they had like a stack of 5 exalts from Tujin, which is crazy. Like 5x, it's right there. It was using the grand shards or whatever they were, and if you calculated, I can't remember the exact amount, but it would have cost him about 7 exalts worth of shards to buy the 5 exalted orbs based on, the price of the market. So it's like, you know,
oops.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like,
not good.
Just don't.
Because
just
probably
don't
the same shards can pay for like mirror shards and whatnot, right?
Or just farm it yourself. I wouldn't look at the prices. I just farm them myself and just buy it.
I try not to look at it. I'm like, go, just do it quick. How much did I lose?
Yeah, don't look at the price, because I mean, if you can, of course, you can gamble them down. Like if you look at the full price, it will probably be more expensive, and probably if you gamble it down, if you manage to gamble it down, because sometimes he's very finicky, then you probably get approximately the same value. But like approximately the same value is not that great when you think about like, well, I wanna get it below value and then get something out of it, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, it does, like, for the haggling part with Tujin, it kind of sets, like, your upper limit for the haggle, right? So if you look up, let's say you have, like, it costs, like, I don't know, 7 grand shards, and one shard is, like, let's say, like, half an X or whatever. So, that's, like, 3.5X for 7 shards is, like, the maximum. So you kind of know, like, what your range is. Okay, this is 4X, I don't want to pay more than 3X for 4X, basically. So you kind of, like, start your haggle, and basically, if he pulls back, you're like, I guess then it wasn't worth the deal, right? Kind of like Hadiro sometimes offers, like if he offers the unique for in trade for like more coins worth.
It's the same feeling.
Currency.
Yeah.
You're like, okay, might as well buy it off trade. I'm not gonna buy that. I don't know, Astramentus for 12k coins. If 12k coins are like double the price of an Astramentus, right?
No.
Yeah.
So I guess it kind of like fits in that same vein. But I was just wondering how much people, and I was worrying about the reroll currency specifically, that might be a bit inflated as well, because I think a lot of streamers are doing like now reroll. I'm rerolling 5,000 Gwenons and gambling for headhunters, and I'm rerolling like a bazillion this and that might just inflate the price because people will see these big ticket items. Like I think Grimro pulled like a headhunter and stuff like that. And it will always inflate the price. Same with for like gambling Nemesis item cards used to inflate. Like whenever there were like big videos where people gambled for headhunters, the prices will always go up because people are like, oh yeah, headhunters, and then
stonks go up. Yep.
Yeah, stonks go up, and they just don't actually match the actual value behind it anymore.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's well, I was about to say it's a problem, but it's not a problem. That's just what trade is. That's just what happens with trade. We weigh up our, the values of everything. You pay more. You pay a lot more attention to the value that everything holds, not just based on your build. Like how much does this reroll mean for my build? No, it's more like how much does this reroll actually cost in chaos, and is it worth me using this or just selling it? It is a thing.
Okay, but as you said, like you basically draw the line at where your fun and but the effort becomes so that it's too annoying and like basically takes away from your fun. You're like, okay, I'm willing to be this efficient and currency efficient, but at that point I just draw the line. I'm like, I don't bother if I lose currency at that point because it just annoys me. Kind of. That's like what the vibe I got from you, both of you, actually.
Exactly. Yeah,
I think that makes sense.
Those kind of smaller kind of bulk things in any league is something that I just don't really subscribe to selling. I'll never sell stacked decks. I'll never sell scarabs. Like for me, it's just much more fun holding on to them and maybe using them. Well, definitely using stacked decks, but I think stacked decks are really nerfed this league.
Yeah. Well, I will always use them.
Yeah.
Or the same things, but I don't usually buy to gamble because it feels like.
Well, I do.
No, it doesn't feel worth it to me. But
no, it's true.
In trade, I usually like bulk sold them when I like after the first big nerf that people thought was happening, and I'm pretty sure that was a nerf. I bulk sold them once I reached like a few hundred, and I just bulk sold them for exalted orbs, and that always felt better than opening them and getting like everything loot filtered out.
Yep. Yeah. But you never know, Yoji.
You never know.
You never know.
I will, however, always open my my void cards.
Voids? Oh,
I love those. Those are some of the most fun because you instantly get the item. You don't get like one part of an item. You get like instantly get the item. I love that. I think that's the coolest card.
Yeah.
I'm saying now, every time I get a void card, I always say, oh look, I got a mirror. Just for the clip, just for the one time it happens, when I say that, and then I get a mirror, and then it clips, and then it gets clipped, right? That's just content right there. So you just always got to say you get a mirror.
I actually
headhunter.
Yeah,
modest.
Yeah, true. Modest.
No, always go for the mirror. Like, why would you go for the headhunter?
Dream big, right?
Yeah. I mean, if you get a headhunter, then you can always be like, it was close enough, I guess.
Close enough, yeah. Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah, I actually got a doctor card from the gambler once, and that was like one of the few times where I didn't say something memey, so the clip is just me by looking dumbfounded, like, what? And the thing is, it was an SSF, so I was like,
Cha-ching money.
7 more cards to go.
Yeah, let's go. Get that burial chamber.
I got 0 more cards after that, after farming a bit of burials.
Yeah.
That was pretty good.
Yeah.
I got 1.
Yeah.
The cool thing is now, these days, you can actually gamble the cards with Harvest. I love that. That's one of the best mechanics. Reminded me of that.
It's true. Or delete them.
Delete them.
Delete them,
is the better way.
I deleted a lot of cards as well. I'm always lucky with Chevron's cards. I've made so many Chevron's wrappings from 1 or 2 cards. It's pretty ridiculous. But awesome. I've always delete everything else, I feel
Everything else, yeah.
Or also make cost
I wonder if there's internal weightings. It's like, if you gamble this card, yeah, sure, it's a 75% chance to get your card. You get more cards, but House of Mirrors, that's like a 10% chance now. Good luck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like everybody...
I think it's been confirmed from all the testing and gambling people have done that it is actually just random and that's it. Which I think is really, really cool.
Yeah.
Because basically everything else in PvE is weighted against us.
Yeah.
So that's why I love this gambling. It's just like honest, pure coin flipping. Will I destroy my valuable cards or double them? Anything? I think that's such a cool mechanic.
In true spirits of PoE, really.
Yeah.
Because they want us to gamble.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
that's actually a good gamble, I think, because you can always be like, no, I'm not being greedy. I have 4 Chevron's cards. I'm going to farm up the other 4 because I farmed these 4. I can do the same again and farm the other 4, or I try to shortcut it, or delete all the cards and start. I think that is really good gambling. Really good, because you have other options. The options are fun and they are like fairly weighted.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah.
I think we've covered most everything, and we did go, a fair while on this episode. But I think it was warranted because we haven't had an episode for a while.
Yeah.
But that may be the official end of the podcast for today. Thank you so much, Mairian, for coming on. We really appreciate it.
Pleasure to be here.
Had a fun time. If you're watching live, stick around. Don't disappear just yet. We'll have a little bit of a chat with you guys if you want to ask any questions whatsoever to any of us. Specifically, Mairian, because she's the guest on this podcast. If you have any burning questions, save them up. But we're going to end the actual podcast now. As we stated in the last podcast, things have changed a little bit on where this is being uploaded after the fact. We're doing a little bit of testing on my channel, on my YouTube channel instead of Yoji's, so you can catch, if you came halfway through or you want to watch it again or anything like that, catch it there. Then after the fact on podcasting applications as well. Most of your favorite ones, it should be showing up there. If it's not, shoot me a DM and I'll make sure everything's uploading properly on the back end, because there is sometimes some problems there. So thanks. That's all I really have to say. Thanks once again, Mairian, for coming on. And as always, stay sane.
Stay sane.
Exiles.
Exiles.